This is Rob Chappell, and it's 365 Amplified for Friday, June 12th. On Friday, March 13th, 2020, you'll probably remember that date. It was my son's 10th birthday, and it was also the day there was a press conference in the morning about Madison schools were going to move their spring break and sanitize and clean and take a couple extra days off and then come back to school. But as we were waiting for that press conference, Governor Evers ordered all schools closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And while I was trying to get that news posted and out to folks, I got a text from our publisher, our CEO, Henry Sanders, asking me to stop by the Boys and Girls Club on my way home. So I did, and I used my cell phone to take a video of Henry and his friend Michael Johnson announcing the Dane County COVID-19 Emergency Fund and seeking donations, because Michael knew what a profound impact closing schools would have on working families everywhere, but particularly Dane County, where he worked. And so we did that little video. We posted it. By the next morning, we had a proper press conference at the Boys and Girls Club Taft Street location. And by the time we even started that press conference, he had collected, or at least commitments of $200,000. Now, I don't know I don't know how that money got distributed, or if it made it to everybody who needed it, or what, but that wasn't my business. I was just there to help amplify the ask. But that was very emblematic of Michael. It was there's a need. Let's address it right now. There's not going to be a committee meeting. There's not going to be a strategic plan. We're just going to get to work. We lost Michael this week. It was very jarring to get a text at 5:20 in the morning telling me that this massive presence in Madison was simply gone. I first became aware of Michael. Some of you folks may know I was the PR guy at Overture Center for like 8 years before we started Madison 365. And Michael was on the board at Overture Center, so I had witnessed his fundraising prowess at various events, fundraising events for Overture Center. And he became, and when we did launch Madison 365, he became just a huge, vocal, outspoken supporter of ours. He was always a champion of other people doing good work. And he understood the power of media, the power of communication, the power of information, the power of representation in media. So he understood why we needed to exist. I should also say a couple years before that, he had become sort of more prominent locally. When a police officer shot and killed Tony Robinson, he jumped into the fray and became kind of a spokesman for the family and brokered conversations with the police. And so by the time Madison 365 was up and running and he was being a vocal advocate for us, he was, sort of known as that guy who would just jump in. And he took some criticism for that, for putting himself in the center of situations that maybe were outside his lane, right? But he didn't have a lane. The whole community was his lane. And we the first time we did any real serious on the ground fundraising was 2017. We joined the News Match program, which you hear about every year from us, where the Institute for Nonprofit News will match donations, and it just wasn't. Folks weren't responding to our sort of social media messaging and stuff, so we decided we got to get Michael in a room with some people where he can just say, "Get out your wallets and give money," because that people respond to that from him. So we put together an event. It was a panel discussion called Strategies and Solutions. It was all about what communities of color in Madison would face in 2018. What would be the priorities for Madison's Black and Latino and Asian and Indigenous communities? And Michael was on that panel, and afterwards he stood up and he sort of cajoled everybody into making a donation. And that was our first big fundraising day. He's the kind of guy who was hard to say no to. And as I mentioned, he moved. More than once, I found out that Madison 365 was going to partner on an event because he'd tag us on Facebook announcing our partnership on the event. And it would be something that he mentioned to Henry in passing one time, and he was just going to move. He was a guy who would probably be he's equally comfortable in almost any situation. Never once witnessed him code switching, though. I know he got some criticism from some folks for his sort of proximity to whiteness. But again, even in those spaces, he was always authentically himself. There was never any code switch that I witnessed. And he would probably be more apt to be friends with the police chief than I would even. But when George Floyd was murdered, within days, he called Henry and me, and we put together because this was still during COVID, right? So we were going to have an in-person event, but we put together a Facebook Live panel of 5 or 6 local law enforcement leaders, police chiefs, Sheriff Dave Mahoney was there, where basically Michael asked law enforcement leaders to say on the record, live on social media, what are you going to do to make sure that doesn't happen here? And to their credit, they did. I mean, they stepped up and they said the words, but he kind of pushed them. And again, because Michael's not the guy you say no to, he got him on the record. And that was, within days. That was, if memory serves, George Floyd was killed on May 25th, and I just looked back when I was, after Michael passed on Sunday night, I was looking through some old things to sort of flesh out the story of his life, and I found that roundtable discussion was on May 29th. So 4 or 5 days. He got a bunch of local law enforcement leaders on the record. The last time I talked to Michael, a couple months ago, maybe a month ago, somebody was on a crusade, questioning his credentials, publicly defaming him, basically, in a very racist way. And he wanted to counter it. And he said, a lot of times I don't, because we Black leaders in Madison just get this all the time. But I don't want to let it sit either, because I know a lot of people are getting this. A lot of Black leaders are getting this and don't feel empowered to say anything. So I'm going to. So I did that. I did that story. I went out to his office at the McKenzie Workforce Development Center. And That was the last time I talked to him. Um, you know, we say he was just going to move. He was just going to do what he had to do all the time. It doesn't mean he wasn't collaborative, right? He did collaborate. He had a very large board of people who were fully dedicated to the cause of the Boys and Girls Club. And not everything he put into motion worked, right? I don't know if you folks might remember he and John McKenzie, who was his partner on the McKenzie Workforce Development Center, major donor to the Boys and Girls Club. They were going to start a charter high school. This is probably 2 years ago now. And they all but announced that it was happening. And then it didn't happen. It ran into some roadblocks with the school boards and with the whole charter system and everything, and it didn't work. But you know what? Not everything works, right? And it's not a failure necessarily, but he was the kind of like a you miss all the shots you don't take kind of guy. And I genuinely don't know what the Boys and Girls Club is going to do. For folks who haven't been around for a long time, when he came in 2010, the Boys and Girls Club was basically your typical Boys and Girls Club, which is to say a place with daycare and after-school programming, super important, but it was one space on Taft Street. That's not to minimize what has happened up to that point or to any other Boys and Girls Club, but that's what it was. It was a typical single building Boys and Girls Club serving the south side of Madison. And he came here when he was 34 years old and took the helm and expanded it to Fitchburg and to Sun Prairie, and ultimately sort of took over or merged with Fort Atkinson, Walworth County, and extended the reach of the Boys and Girls Club and himself well past that. And they're embedded in all the schools now. They sent us our first crop of interns back in 2016 in the summer. And they once after they got embedded in the schools and got literally thousands of young people prepared and sent off to college, they were kind of behind the whole idea of the signing day. You know how there's the college signing days for athletes, and they started doing signing day for other kids, and where just the kid who was just going to go major in education or going to go major in English or whatever. The whole ceremony where they signed their papers and celebrated, that's something that Michael started, I think. If he didn't start it, he certainly grew it and championed it. But then he realized he was missing a bunch of kids who were not going to go to college, and that there's nothing wrong with not going to college, that there are perfectly valid career paths that don't include college, and spent the last 5 years or so building the McKenzie Workforce Development Center for kids who could learn a trade, make a good living, and become entrepreneurs through a different path, right? Especially children of color who are vastly underrepresented in the skilled trades, and for that matter, in entrepreneurship. So just to say, I genuinely don't know what the Boys and Girls Club is going to do next. I think it'll be impossible to replace Michael. Taylor Jackson, very talented, very dynamic person who's currently the interim CEO there. And further, I genuinely don't know what Madison is going to do without him. He's been here 16 years, a relatively short period of time. And there are people, who we interact with regularly who are like fifth generation Madison people. But it's a massive, massive loss. And as you'll hear in the second part of the show, the life expectancy for a Black man in Madison is 52. And Michael was 50. He had just turned 50 in October. which is just mind-boggling to think about. So that's all. I just wanted to take a few minutes and recollect a little bit and kind of connect folks with, my social media feeds have been just full of memories and people really, really hurting. So I just wanted to give a little bit of perspective to our listeners and think about what Michael meant to Madison 365 and to media and to the community more broadly. And the second half of the show, we're going to introduce you to the summer interns, who I think Michael would have liked a lot and would have been very proud of. We have 4 college students working with us this summer, all of whom have stories that are either have been published or about to be published. They're all very smart, very talented journalists, and come from a wide range of backgrounds, as you will hear. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll come back. We'll have myself and Omar doing our normal news roundup, but also you'll hear from Miles and Camille and Abby and Beth. And hope you stay tuned for that and listen for their voices over the next few months. All right, we'll be right back right after this. And we're back, and we've got the entire summer team around the table here. This is very exciting and very fun. We've never had this many people on the podcast. I literally had to dig through my bag to find extra microphones, and we still have to share because we got all of our reporting intern team here for this that are here for the summer, and all of them have cool stories that they're working on and have published recently. So we're gonna get to know them, and we got a lot of news to talk about. So we're gonna start on podcast right with Miles Felix. Introduce yourself first, Miles.
Hey guys, I'm Miles, going to my junior year at UW, and I mostly report on sports, try to talk about local politics, and also everything in between, and I like doing a little bit of photo and video stuff, but this past Sunday I had the pleasure of covering the inaugural season of MSCR's flag football, or girls flag football league, and it kind of just started really rapidly, but it all kind of started this past fall when Adam Smith, who's a physical ed teacher at Toki Elementary School, he was talking to MSCR and MSSD about trying to get a girls flag football league going. And they ended up directing him towards Ian Hanna, who's the supervisor at MSCR, and they both decided to write a grant towards USA Football and the Green Bay Packers for equipment, coaching, funding, and also just trying to get funding for officials as well as field space. And they ended up getting approved for the grant. And from there, Smith really ran with the idea and got other schools in the area involved. He got East, West, Lafayette, Memorial, and also Verona all signed up for their inaugural league this summer. As in they've been playing games either at Lafayette or Memorial in overlapping weekends in June. And from so far, it's been a really good turnout, and just getting to talk to some of the girls on separate teams at Memorial and Lafayette. It's both an opportunity for players who've loved the game of football their entire lives to be able to have an outlet now to play flag football, and also for a new, it seems like a new group of kids who are underclassmen at their respective high schools to have a new opportunity to play a sport they can now be a part of. And it's really, really rapidly progressing in the Madison area, but also what it seems to be across the world as it now becomes an Olympic sport, as well as in other states in the Midwest, such as Illinois, Michigan, and also Minnesota. It's already a state-sanctioned, it's already an official sport in those states. So Wisconsin's now following up on the momentum, hoping for this to become a WIAA sanctioned sport in the future.
Right, that's kind of the goal, right? Is to get it sanctioned by WIAA, so there can be like a state tournament and official school teams. Are they? Is it just girls flag football, or is there boys flag football?
From my understanding right now, to get approved, it's just girls flag football.
Yeah. The Olympics is going to have men's and women's both, though, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay. And who's coaching these teams?
So right now it seems like I just talked about Smith. So he's the person that, like I said, he's a physical ed teacher at Toki, but he actually is also the coach at Memorial. And it seems like, especially after looking at La Follette as well as both East and West, some of the football coaches who are working with the tackle football teams in the fall are also now working with these flag football teams now in this late spring / early summer season, which is part of the reason why it's a little bit of a toss up right now whether the sport, if it were to be sanctioned by the WIAA, whether it'll be in the spring or the fall is a bit of the toss up here, because we have these student athletes that are involved in track and field, softball, soccer, maybe even lacrosse in the spring, but also. So that might conflict with practices, as well as having these student athletes play multiple sports in the spring is already difficult as it is. But in the fall, like I said, some of these coaches are already coaching their respective teams, so it might be difficult to see when this happens. But it might also stay in June in this late summer window.
Gotcha. And how many games are there in this sort of provisional spring season? Yeah,
so it runs pretty interesting. So I had to talk to Ian Hanna about this a little bit more, but the way he explained it to me is in June, they started the first weekend of June, and they're going to go till the weekend of the 28th. And the windows, instead of having teams just play one game per weekend, teams are playing 2 games actually. So this allows the 5 teams in the league to play each other twice. And then from there, they're going to roll into a seeded tournament in the last weekend where the teams with the best record, they're all going to get a chance to play again, but it'll be somewhat of a seeded tournament, a little bit like a March Madness kind of elimination style.
Oh, cool.
And they're hoping, after talking to Smith, he said it'd be pretty cool if they've been reaching out to actually Breese Stevens Field to see if they can get the play that game there under those lights. So that will both be a really cool opportunity for the student athletes, but also I think it would bring a lot of validity to this growing sport and show, I think, the Madison community how real it is, but also maybe get some fans out there.
That would be very cool.
Be awesome.
And if people want to go see these games, they're on Sunday afternoons.
Sunday afternoons this weekend. They're usually, from my understanding, from 2 to 6 p.m.
Okay.
Last weekend it was at Memorial. This weekend's at Lucien Stadium at La Follette. And then it'll be at Memorial next weekend after that. All
right, that sounds great. And Steph will be happy that it's not just me talking about sports anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very glad you're here today.
Yeah.
I always inject sports into the podcast, and I often get made fun of for it. So thank you, Miles, for that. And again, that story is at madison365.org, as well as some photos from Sunday. We're going to shift gears from sports to art. Camille, lean into the microphone there and introduce yourselves and tell us who you went and talked to at the public market.
Hi, my name is Camille Jackson. I'm a student at Twin Cities, Madison, but I'm back here for this, or Twin Cities, Minnesota, but I'm back here for the summer. And yesterday I went to the Madison Pubilc Market and talked to a bunch of people there. And
what were your impressions of the public market? We should mention the public market's not open yet. It's allegedly going to open July 23rd,
yes.
But they're doing these pop-ups on Wednesdays.
Yes.
Right? What were your impressions of the space and and just the vibe there?
The vibe was, people are very nervous about it really fully being open, and really they're nervous if it's going to keep happening, because there was a lot of anticipation for this market to open. It's been 5 years.
Literally years. Yep.
5 years since it's been announced. But now that it's open, people are excited, but they're also nervous to see how it's going to happen. And the tournament was pretty good, though there was a severe thunderstorm the day of opening, but there was still people out there, which is good to see.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you talked to Christopher Sweet.
Yes, I talked to Christopher Sweet of Blue Bear Studios. He's a Ho-Chunk artist. He does multimedia work. He does sculptures, paintings. He's selling note card, poster cards and prints at his stand at Madison Pubilc Market. He's been professionally painting since 2016 and really built up his studio in 2021. So he's been around for doing art for about 5 years now, and he's going to be a temporary stall at the market.
Oh, so he's just there for these pop-ups.
Yeah, he's going to be there for the pop-ups through July 21st, I think, or July 1st.
Okay. And then is he going to be there for the opening as well, if it happens?
I think he'll be
if it happens.
He'll be there for the grand opening.
Whenever it happens in 2028, he'll be there for the grand opening. All right. And so that story again will be at madison365.org. Thank you. Thank you for that, Camille. Abby, who we met last week, is here again.
Yep.
And you talked to Janisha Mick.
Janisha Mick.
Yes, about her event coming up. When is this event coming up?
June 20th.
And tell us about it.
Yeah, so Built from the Block, it's her upcoming nonprofit, and she made it to pour into underserved youth living in Harmony Apartments on Madison's East Side. She is a middle school teacher at Whitehorse Middle School, and so she spent a lot of time with the youth in that area, and she's had a lot of time to observe their needs and also their aspirations and how a lack of resources has contributed to them not being able to achieve those things. And so she really wanted to give back, and so she created Built from the Block, and their launch event is on June 20th, and it's going to be like a youth entrepreneurship event. So she's bringing in a bunch of different entrepreneurs representing different professions. So there's going to be hairstylists, barbers, mechanics, the police department's coming out, the fire department, among others. And yeah, it's going to be an event for the youth to be able to connect with those people and really seek guidance in those career paths and maybe start thinking about their future in that way. And it's also just a way to get them something to do, some activities. There's going to be a basketball tournament and a raffle, and yeah, just promoting fun events for the kids to be able to engage in.
Yeah, in that neighborhood, there's just often not a lot going on for the kids. I think that was one of the things that came through in your story, was that there's like kids just kind of just hanging out, and that's when trouble can start sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. And to be able to see a concrete future in something that isn't maybe necessarily even college, but just something, a career, a path forward, which is
right. One of the things she mentioned is how a lot of these kids are very independent, and they don't really necessarily want to follow authority. And so she wanted to show to them, like, hey, you don't have to work for someone. You can work for yourself.
Interesting.
Pursue a career that's, self-defined. And so I thought that's
very cool. All right. Thank you for that. That was, we put that up Thursday morning at madison365.org. We'll put a link in the show notes. We're going to come back over here to Beth Stacy. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Beth Stacy. I'm going into my junior year at UW-Madison as a neurobiology and journalism major, and I'm really interested in reporting on like health equity and those kinds of things. So
not the most common double major.
No, yeah, it's maybe I'm confused about my future. But
trying to keep all options open.
Yes,
that's fine.
Yes,
But you talk with Taryn Peterson out in Sun Prairie about their upcoming. It is Juneteenth coming. There's tons of stuff going on for Juneteenth. We have a lot of previews, and the first one here's the celebration out in Sun Prairie.
Yeah, so apparently Sun Prairie's Juneteenth is a fan favorite, according to Taryn. But it seems like it's going to be an awesome time. There'll be a DJ, a free meal that's served at 5. The event runs from 4 to 7. There'll be grill masters with like popular leaders from the community doing that. And then there'll also be just games and hair braiders and a lot of like pickup games as well. So that's exciting. This year, the sponsors are the Boys and Girls Club, the the Sun Prairie School District, Sun Prairie Community Schools, and the City of Sun Prairie. Yeah.
And that is that on the 19th?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's which is a
Friday
the 19th. Yeah. And where did you say where it is?
Wetmore Park. Yeah.
Wetmore Park. Okay. Very good. Watch for that and enjoy yourself. There's going to be Madison Juneteenth, I think, is on. When's the Madison one? Is it the 19th or the 20th? Anybody know? I don't know. We'll fill again. It's right around there. And Fitchburg's also having one, and they're happening all over the place, which is fantastic. And finally, a man who needs no introduction to this audience, Omar. Tell us about the Aaron Perry Health Summit.
I mean, I could use an introduction. That would be nice.
Introduce yourself, Omar.
Hi, my name is Omar. I like short walks on the beach. I don't know. Sunrises? I don't. So the Black Men's Health Summit is coming up for its second run, and you may be thinking, whoa, there's been way more than 2 of those. You'd be right, but those ones didn't count because they were virtual. This is the second one that is actually held in person at the Milwaukee Improv. So Aaron Perry, if you don't know Aaron Perry, he's the founder of Rebalance Life Wellness Association that's working a lot to kind of repair the health disparities for Black men, especially in Dane County, where the average lifespan for a Black man is 51 to 52 years old, which is not good. One of the worst in the country, like many health disparities.
Mm-hmm.
So he's holding the second annual actual in-person summit. And again, very famous comedian will be there. Unfortunately, not D.L. Hughley this time, my favorite comedian personally, but George Wallace. So
Not that George Wallace.
Not that George Wallace.
The
funny one.
The funny George Wallace.
So go see George Wallace. Go talk about health. This year will be centered on mental health, which is something that Perry has been pushing for a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
It's been realizing that, yeah, we're talking about health, but we're not necessarily talking about everything. So,
and remind us, when is that?
That is June 13th. There's also a bus from the Urban League that will take you all the way to Milwaukee Improv for free. If you want to go, that bus will pick you up at 9 a.m. It'll bring you back to Madison at 2:30. The actual summit will be at 10:30 through 1 p.m.
Perfect. And that preview will, again, be at madison365.org. Last thing before we go, the nurses at St. Mary's voted yesterday. And
yeah, they did.
Despite union busting efforts from their higher ups, they voted to form a union.
They did. They're unionized under SEIU, so I think that's all the hospitals are under.
I think you're right. I think so. That's the last of the nurses that are. If we're wrong on that, let us know. But I think pretty sure that's the last of the hospital groups that has now unionized their nurses. And there's not a lot more to say about that right now, but we'll cover it as it goes forward. All right, guys, we did it. We made a podcast. Good job, everybody. Happy to have you all here. And you'll be hearing more from these guys all summer long. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again soon. 365 Amplified is produced and edited by me, Rob Chappell, and is a production of 365 Media Foundation, a nonprofit, local, independent media organization in Madison, Wisconsin. Wherever you're listening to this right now, hit the subscribe or follow button to get new episodes every Friday. And between episodes, get your latest news at madison365.org and follow us on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Threads. Wherever you get your news, we'll be there.